Andy Tyson, the speaker. I got it on the calendar.
I'm gonna do it. My intro should be. I can you can start on me. I can sort of emphasize the thing a little bit if you want.
Usually I have a hard time coming in.
All different things. Yeah, so, yeah. Whatever, I don't know if you're doing
I don't think that's how he knows. My husband works with that, so he knows that's
It's my fault.
He's still there.
They're just bopping around right
all kinds of.
Yeah, my husband works.
Okay. How do you feel about standing up to sing?
Yeah, we should.
Okay, I mean, we have places in between, so we won't have to stand for long periods. I think we'll be better heard if we're seen.
Yeah, it's nice.
And I also feel like if you're standing up, you won't be able to have your books in your lap, which is good. And you'll have your whole support system available to you. Are you okay with that? You okay with that? And I'm just going to do it. We're going to stand while we sing.
And I
And
hold the
I will,
book
like this. And then I will ask you to rise. I'm not going to cry, just think about it.
It's connected.
Bye.
Dad.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So it's none of my business, but I did observe that.
Just don't worry about it. Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
You see that?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I really get to see that. So thank you for letting me know.
Oh, yeah, and the songs that we sang. Okay, so.
I don't understand why.
Did you hear them?
Yes.
No.
Give them a minute. They're setting it up, I think.
So, thank you. Talk about hope.
Oh,
I can't hear them.
No, give them a second. I think they're setting it up.
I've been I'll get a couple.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm just admiring it. I'm just admiring it.
They are muted.
I don't know that that's happening. That's
They were saying that, we're gonna, and Janice would be okay with us to right, we're gonna stand for all the songs.
We're gonna stand for all the songs. And then we're gonna sit down after. I'm gonna feel like I'm at church.
We sing.
Except for when you
Sometimes stand. Except for when you guys, can I just stand as you need to stand? I won't stand you.
Did we sometimes stand when we were like on the other side of the piano? Because we would have our music on top of the piano.
I've always tried to get that spot where we would have it to put our seat down. She said, I won't stand you. I said, would you? I can't stand you. But the best part was her snoring. That was the best part.
So just make sure that you're getting up.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Rabbi.
Good to see you all here tonight. It's always a special privilege to be able to enter into an hour of memory together as our broader community, our TBT and CBSRZ friends observing together. It is a positive commandment in Judaism to remember. Zachor, it says in the Torah. You should remember. It's an act that is not devoid of moral context. It's an act that is not devoid of ritual significance. And in fact, it's through ritualizing, it's through doing, active, sharing stories, lighting candles, saying prayers, singing songs, that we remember those we loved and lost, that we remember those of our people who perished in the great calamity we call the Shoah. And so we've all come into this space to exercise that Jewish obligation of Zachor. And I want to extend a special welcome to our friends from CBSRZ, including Rabbi Marcy Bellows and Cantor Belinda over there, as well as Meg on the keys, who is somewhere around here. Oh, over there. Thank you to our choir, both from TBT and from CBSRZ, to Mando Man, and to Walter from TBT. Did I leave anyone out? I really hope not. And to Don in the back on the sound, Susie on the tech, and Shelley, who helped get our speaker. If I forgot somebody, it takes a village to make this evening possible, and I very much appreciate all of you. I hope that everybody received one of these orders of service as you came in. No, you didn't? If not, David, Nancy, sorry, since you're already up, would you mind grabbing a few more so that we can share them with those who are here? We might, if there are no more copies, we might need to share, which would be a good problem to have. I made about 50 copies. If there are no more out there, then maybe we could share one for every two so that everybody can see one. Thank you. No, we're all done? Okay, thank you. We're on page 2, friends. We begin with silence, the silence of death, the silence after destruction. There are times when songs falter, when darkness fills life, when martyrdom becomes a constellation of faith against the unrelieved black of space around us. There are no words to reach beyond the edge of night, no message to tell the full tale. There is only silence, the silence of Job, the silence of the 6 million, the silence of memory. Let us remember them as we link our silences together. We begin with silence, but we also begin with song. And in this particular case, a song by Hannah Senes, a brave Hungarian paratrooper who gave her life for her people. And this poem she wrote on the northern shores of Israel, looking out over the waves of the Mediterranean and conceiving of the sense of eternity beyond our world and the sense of hope that entails. Eli, Eli, O God, my God, may these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart.
Good evening. Thank you so much for allowing us year after year to join together in this way to show how the Jewish community is strong and is healthy here in Connecticut, and that we come together even in our moments of sadness and we feel the connection nonetheless. On the top of page 3, if you look at the graphic, we have mismatched candlesticks. And I wonder how many of us have just one candlestick, missing perhaps its partner at home. And I wonder how many of us, wish we could ask that candlestick its story, where it's been, how it came to be alone. And so these mismatched candlesticks remind us of the resilience that our ancestors have always shown in dark times. They made do with what they had. They never gave up their determination to hold on to their Judaism. We take inspiration from their resilience and from those who found the strength to stand when standing seemed impossible. Now I invite those who have been asked to come up and light our Yizkor memorial candles.
If you come up and look closely at the end of the service, you'll see one of these is not like all of the other ones. So we continue the tradition.
You all for helping us to remember tonight with the symbol of these lights. Thank you for participating.
We continue on page 4. For the bereaved. Rock of Jacob, comfort of Rachel, broken and torn, shattered and crushed, bereaved and bereft, we declare your holy name. We praise your gifts and your works. You are author and artist, architect and builder, source and redeemer. We, the mourners of Zion and Israel, comfort each other. We console the lonely and embrace the lost. We cry each other's tears. Together we recall your wonder and your majesty. Holy One, ineffable Redeemer, guiding hand, gentle hand, loving hand, light of Israel, guardian of Israel. And we look for that light of Israel in the stars, which illumine up even the brightest nights. Yesh kochavim, there are stars up above.
So far away we only see their light. Long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע עצה, רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו ונם. יש אנשים שזיזים רמאים, כאשר הם עצמם אינם עוד.
we continue on the top of page 5. To seek a human. In the flames of war, of fire, of the burned, in the stormy oceans of blood, I shall light my little lamp to seek a human. The flames of the fire weaken my lamp. Lights of fire are blinding my eyes. How shall I see? How will I look? How will I know? How will I recognize when he shall stand in front of me? Give me a sign, God. Put a sign on his face, due to the fire, the burning, and blood, so that I shall recognize the pure brightness, the eternal I have been seeking for, a human.
And a language of the intellect. The impulse to express oneself through music is not easily suppressed. For Jews trapped in Europe during the Nazi Holocaust, music was a means of expressing pain and anguish, of expressing hope, of maintaining one's humanity. The composers of many of these poems and songs were murdered by the Nazis and their collaborators, but their music lives on. Their message speaks to us today and warns us to be vigilant against xenophobic hatred and begs us never to lose our compassion. After the war, those who survived the camps were physically depleted, emotionally drained, and haunted by the conviction that life was evil and worthless. Shmerke Kazarginsky was one of those survivors who traveled around Europe visiting the displaced persons and sending a message of courage and hope. His poem, Zol Shoin Kumen de Geula, expresses the feelings of the survivor trying to make a new beginning after the Holocaust, determined never to give up on life, never to give up faith in humanity, and never to give up the vision of a better world.
So I'm just going to add one quick word. As a child of Holocaust survivors, it's only in this later stage of life that I've, let's say, built the container enough to finally understand even a smidge of what these Yiddish words are trying to tell us. And it always amazed me how in the Yiddishkeit there could be so much humor and so much joy amidst so much pain. And this song is an example of that. And there's a verse in here where it says, and I can hear somebody saying in sort of Tevye's voice. So picture Tevye arguing and talking with God, right, in Fiddler on the Roof. And I could just see Tevye saying, God, see to it that the Messiah doesn't come a little too late. You know, I could just imagine that. So I just finally at this age, and I can encourage everybody in the midst of the worst days and nights of life that it's human and necessary to also see the light. Thank you so much.
Ungesollen, geverstellen, mach min alle Kraim. Ob der Hume Sirut ruhen, singen mir ein Lied. Ist nicht du kein Bissel Bronfen, Lohn mit Trinken mein. Mi bechaim ist doch heim, wusst doch noch der Viel. So scheint kommen die Geule, so scheint kommen Alita wie so spät, so scheint kommen die Geule, so scheint kommen die Geule, so scheint kommen die Geule, Mashiach kommt scheinbar. So scheint kommen die Geule, so scheint kommen die Geule, so scheint kommen die Geule, Mashiach kommt scheinbar. Stansen beide Liederkeller, Sterne Verkehung. Wem Israel die Schanten steigten in der. Es wird sich häufig beim Mashiach und sind wieder drüber, wenn werden lernen unser viele dicke Lied. So scheint kommen die Geule, so scheint kommen die Geule, so scheint kommen die Geule, Mashiach kommt scheinbar, so scheint kommen die Geule, so scheint kommen die Geule, so scheint kommen die Geule, Mashiach kommt scheinbar.
We're at the top of page 7. The following was composed as a tribute to the memory of a 13-year-old hero of the resistance. When I was 13, I became a bar mitzvah.
Please join me. When he was 13, he became a bar mitzvah.
When I was 13, my teachers taught me to put tefillin on my arm.
When he was 13, his teachers taught him to throw a hand grenade with his arm.
When I was 13, I studied the pathways of the Bible and the roadways of the Talmud.
When he was 13, he studied the canals of Warsaw and the sewers of the ghetto.
At my bar mitzvah, I took an oath to live as a Jew.
At his bar mitzvah, he took an oath to die as a Jew.
At my bar mitzvah, I blessed God.
At his bar mitzvah, he questioned God.
At my bar mitzvah, I lifted my voice and sang.
At his bar mitzvah, he lifted his fists and fought.
At my bar mitzvah, I read from the scrolls of Torah.
At his bar mitzvah, he wrote a scroll of fire.
At my bar mitzvah, I wore a new talid over a new suit.
At his bar mitzvah, he wore a rifle and bullets over a suit of rags.
At my bar mitzvah, I started my road of life.
At his bar mitzvah, he began his road to martyrdom.
At my bar mitzvah, family and friends came to say l'chaim.
At his bar mitzvah, Rabbi Akiva and Trumpeldor, Hannah and her 7 sons, came to escort him to heaven.
At my bar mitzvah, they praised my voice, my song, my melody.
At his bar mitzvah, they praised his strength, his courage, his fearlessness.
When I was 13, I was called up to the Torah. I went to the Bima.
When he was 13, his body went up in smoke, his soul rose to God.
When I was 13, I became bar mitzvah and lived.
When he was 13, he became a bar mitzvah and lives now within each of us.
And so our rabbi from Bratslav teaches, Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tsar me'od va'ikar lo litpached klal. The entire world is a narrow bridge, and the most important thing is not to succumb to the fear when we walk through it. The enormity of the Shoah is a horror which sits in the Jewish soul. Regardless of time and place, it is something that we will always carry with us. But it is also something that is personal to each of us in a different way. And the grief that we carry, the loss that we carry, the stories of lives that were cruelly cut down and interrupted, and the grief of what could never be, These are things that we carry with us throughout the generations. And so it's important now to take a moment to honor the lives of some of our own family members who endured the Shoah, some of whom miraculously survived, and far too many who did not. And I'm just sorry that we don't have enough time to share the full stories, because the stories that you have shared with me, and I'm sure Rabbi Bellows has had the same experience, are truly soul-stirring, tragic, and also show the depth of the human spirit in ways that are beautiful. And I hope that at a different time we can actually spend more time telling some of these stories in greater depth. So we'll now begin to share some of those names of our loved ones, including those shared by Margaret Lerner, including Margarete and Leon Hertzberger, her paternal grandparents, murdered in the Chelmno concentration camp in May 1942. Her mother, Rachel Inslicht Hertzberger, survived the Holocaust by being protected by an Italian family in Rome and by being hidden in a Catholic convent. Lee Sander remembers his mother, Dorit Sander, née Frank, and his grandfather, Myrtle, grandmother Flory, and Aunt Sybil Frank, who escaped Germany and then were hidden in the underground by the Dutch. Also his mother's fiancé, Edgar, after whom he is named. Robin Baslaw remembers Annette Baslaw Finger, Shulamit and David Scher, Jack Gittel Francis, and Eugene Traponsky. Our member Marissa Gelband remembers her grandmother, Raisa Miransky, from Belarus. She survived the Holocaust, lived to 98 years old, and spent 10 years with her 4 great-grandchildren. I had the privilege to know Raisa very briefly in her final moments. Janet Stein remembers the Apfelbat family, from Warsaw, Poland. Their home was bombed in 1939, and her grandparents, Louis and Hinda, children Helen and her mother Sam and Alan, survived miraculously by heading east to Kiev and then to Siberia. After 3 years in a displaced persons camp in Germany, they arrived to the United States in 1949. Naomi Taylor remembers Edie Sonnenschein, her great-grandmother's youngest brother. He endured forced labor brigades in Hungary, and his wife Rushka was murdered in the war. He married Auschwitz survivor Lillian, whom he met after the war when he returned home, and they were together for 59 years, having one daughter who lives in New York City with her family.
And on behalf of the CBSRZ community, we do mark the recent passing of our member, Evelyn Foster, who just passed a few months ago, and we've paid tribute over these years to her family members, and so we'll continue to do so in her memory. Evelyn lost 50 of her mother's cousins, aunts, and uncles shot in a park in Belgrade. She does not know their names. Descendants of Dr. Moshesh, who came from Spain and was a doctor with the Ottoman army in the late 1400s or early 1500s. The family of Claude Davis and her mother of blessed memory, Miriam Swidler. There were 29 relatives in her father's family who lived in Kutno, Poland. They were her grandmother, her children with their spouses, and their children. They were all murdered in Treblinka. She does not know their names. And from Miriam's mother's family, the Olzer family, 14, including her grandparents, died in different camps. Her grandparents, Dina and Mendel Mayer, died on the street when their town was annexed by the Germans. Her uncle Ziche was shot as a hostage. His wife Rose died in a camp. Her aunt Fege, her husband Grabowski, and their 2 daughters perished in Auschwitz. Her uncle Jacques, his wife Hella, and their 9-year-old boy René were picked up by the French milice and perished in Auschwitz. Her uncle Koninsky died in Auschwitz. He was picked up in Liga, Belgium, where they lived. And the family of Corinne Weber, her mother's aunt, uncle, and young cousin, who were killed in concentration camps in Latvia. Their names are Moses and Ida Frank, and their son, Herman.
We continue at the top of page 9.
I believe in the sun. I believe in the sun. Even when it's not shining. I believe in love. I believe in love. Even when I don't feel it. I believe in love. I believe in love. Even when I don't feel it. I believe in even when I don't feel it. I believe in love. I believe in love. Even when I don't feel it. I believe in God. I believe in God. Even when God is silent.
We continue to honor the memories of loved ones who belong to our communities. From the family of our cantor Belinda Brennan, all from Poland, her grandfather's parents, Solomon Scherer, Amelia Scherer, and sister Dora Scherer. Her grandmother's parents and 4 siblings. She does not know their names. She only knows them as we remember them now, the family of Sally Gottfried. And from the family of Neil Gottfried, Archik Tarabur, Neil's grandfather's brother, and his wife, we don't have a name for her, and daughter Basha Tarabur and her brother, but no name for him, from Kletsk in the province of Minsk, and Liba Gelfand, husband of Sarah Tarabur, Neil's grandfather's sister. And then our member Henry Reznikoff remembers these members of his family who are all survivors of the Kovno ghetto in Lithuania, as well as multiple years in different concentration camps and who have since passed away. Ralph Aronson, Misha Aronson, Sonia Aronson, and then Henry Aronson, who is also a survivor, has lived well into his 90s with 2 children, 7 grandchildren, and 13 great-grandchildren.
We further remember those from the Schanzer Rappaport family. Leah and Samuel Rappaport remained in Brno to sell property after their daughter Regina fled to Chile in 1939. Despite securing Chilean visas, they were deported to Theresienstadt, and Regina was last heard from them in 1942. David and Anna Schanzer fled Leipzig for Vichy-controlled Nice, where the family hid in a cellar. They attempted to cross into Switzerland on foot and were caught and returned, and ultimately murdered in Auschwitz. Grandmother Maria, called Oma Maria, survived 4 years in hiding and reached Chile in 1946, carrying the emotional weight of the family and the memories. Shelley Capozzi remembers Sarah and Adolf Meltzer, survivors from Poland, her parents. Victims include the Milstein family of Lublin, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins, the Finkelstein family of Lublin, also aunts, uncles, and cousins, the Chibowski family of Lublin, aunt and uncle, the Milstein family of Antwerp, Belgium, and Paris, France, cousins, the Meltzer family of Trembowla, Poland, grandparents, brother, uncles, aunts, and cousins. Otto Hahn recalls his grandfather who came to America quickly and met his grandmother and then enlisted so he could fight for America toward the end of the war. The Chodos family recalls Samuel Goldwasser, who survived Auschwitz after losing his wife and young son, later saving his younger brother Israel, Izzy, by pulling him from the death line to the work line. Izzy went on to marry, raise 2 daughters, and live into his 90s in Chicago. Guta Goldwasser, called Guti, survived by smuggling food in and out of the ghetto, and later by protecting her sister Esther in Auschwitz by hiding her in the bunks and performing double labor so Esther would not be selected for death. Esther survived. Esther Friesner recalls her father David Friesner, a Shoah survivor who was never interned in a concentration camp or a death camp. He lived in a Polish town that is now located in Ukraine. First the Russians came in, and then the Nazis. He lost almost his entire family, but miraculously survived to tell a new story. I invite us now to turn to page 10 as we remember all of our dear ones. We assume now our responsibility, that moral dimension of memory that I referred to at the beginning of the evening, that in the face of this horror we have the responsibility for it to not be perpetrated again, not to others, not to us, not to anyone. How do we ensure that no one ever suffers such a fate? We resolve to strengthen the world through our commitment to justice. We say together, Le'olam lo od, never again. Never again shall we ignore the gathering shadows of hate.
Le'olam lo od, never again.
Never again shall we stay silent at the preaching of malice. Never again shall we excuse those who hate. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who girds Israel with strength. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael bigvura. Never again shall we stand and watch while people are mistreated. Never again shall we allow groups of people to be separated and made unequal. Never again shall we watch a community plant the seeds of hate and do nothing. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who frees the captive. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Never again shall we think we are helpless to stop the coming of evil. Never again shall we forget our own strength. Never again shall we allow hatred to go unanswered.
humbly hearted, rise, won't be denied, rise, with spirit to guide us, rise, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here, in hope, in prayer, we're right here, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here, in hope, in prayer, we're right here, we rise, all of the children rise, elders with wisdom rise, ancestors surround us rise, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here, in hope, in prayer, we're right here, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here, in hope, in prayer, we're right here, we rise, shield for each other, rise, standing for freedom, rise, stronger tomorrow, rise, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here, in hope, in prayer, we're right here, in hope, in prayer, we find ourselves here, in hope, in prayer, we're right here, we rise, up from the wreckage, rise, with tears and with courage, rise, fighting for life, we rise.
Literally, let us please rise. And as we rise, I invite Shelley Capozzi to come forward. She'll be introducing our speaker for the evening. On page 12, we rise to count the Omer. We are told to count each day to number our days, and every day counts as we count these intervening days. You're welcome to join me as we count the day following the 11th day of the Omer. Hineni muchanu mizuman lekayem mitzvat aseh shel sfirat Omer. I'm ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer. Please join me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tivanu al sfirat ha'omer. Hayom 12 yom shem shavua achad v'chamisha yamim la'omer. Today is the 12th day, which is 1 week and 5 days of counting of the Omer. Please be seated. Shelley Capozzi is one of those people who really embodies Zachor within our community, who embodies the obligation to remember. Shelley is one of our educators whose personal passion is remembering and teaching the Shoah, and she has invited a special guest who will be joining us via Zoom in just a moment.
Good evening. We are the last witnesses to ensure that we connect with the survivors who are still with us and to hear them share their stories with us and us in turn to share with others who might not have had the good fortune to see survivors in person. Tonight's guest, Dr. Leon Kaimaides, is a retired doctor, Holocaust educator, and a child survivor, and totally a mensch, and a wonderful friend of mine. You will hear a very unique story that he will share, and hopefully you will not forget this evening. So without further ado, we will hear from Leon.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we hear you. Can you hear us?
Okay, tell me when to start. Okay, thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you for that lovely introduction. Along with you, I'm curious to see what I have to say. At any rate, I want to remind you that in a few weeks we'll be commemorating the 81st year of the end of the Second World War. And therefore, any of us who still remember the events of that war were obviously children at the time. And I'd like to right now share my slides with you. So I'm going to hit share. Okay, I'm having trouble with sharing slides, so I'll do it without sharing the slides. My father, I was born in the city of Katowice, Poland, and Katowice is in the southwestern part of Poland, almost on the German border, about 2 miles from the German border. And I was born, as I said, in 1935, which was 2 years after Hitler came to power and 4 years before Germany invaded Poland. As I mentioned, my father not only was the rabbi, but was also the editor of the community newspapers. And shortly after my birth, he wrote an essay called Jewish Children as Martyrs. The opening paragraphs, he mentions how sorry he is to bring a child into this world. And then he concludes with the following. Today in the 20th century, Jewish children have hardly become conscious of life and joy when they realize that they are surrounded by enemies, encircled by hatred and trust. Jewish children must once again become heroes. Teach your children to bear humiliation with pride, to accept degradation in peace, and teach them in suffering never to deny, in an assault from hostile forces, never to lose hope. Hope in the enlightenment of humanity, hope in the deliverance of the Jewish people. And I'd like to try once again to see whether I can get this PowerPoint, because it's
Right there.
Oh, I can't. I don't know why. You can't see that, can you? Can you hear me? Yes. Can you see my screen at all? I wonder why. Okay, all right. That's too bad. We were a middle-class family and lived in an apartment building which was built by my great-grandfather who came to Katowice in the 1860s. My mother was born in Germany and only spoke German, while my father was fluent in both German and Polish. My mother eventually would be killed in the liquidation of the Lviv ghetto, and my father would die in December in the Lviv ghetto also. We had a nanny when I was born by the name of Agnes and a cook, Anna, and they spoke to me in Polish, so I was bilingual as I was a youngster. I had a brother 2.5 years older than I, and we had a magnificent synagogue which was filled with dynamite on September the 4th, 1939, and blown up by the Germans shortly after entering Katowice. Shortly before the beginning of the war, there were already rumors about the impending war, and with many others we fled by train in the only direction we could that was open to us, and that was eastward. Our destination was the Polish city, then known as Lvov, and today as the Ukrainian city of Lviv. My father was born in a nearby small town, and my paternal grandparents, and many aunts, uncles, and cousins still lived there. We didn't know it at the time, but Russia and Poland had signed a non-aggression pact. And when they signed that pact, the western part of Poland went to Germany, and the eastern part of Poland, where we went, Lviv, was a part of the Soviet Union. So for the first 2 years, from 1939 until 1941, we were under Russian occupation. The Germans attacked the Soviet Union on June 22nd, 1941. I was then 6 years old and experienced my first pogrom carried out against us by our Ukrainian neighbors. I remember Jews being beaten and forced to scrub cobblestones with toothbrushes in the town center. I remember hiding, terrified, in a dark, smelly, and hot cellar with my mother. We could hear frequent yells, screams, and occasional gunshots. And suddenly there was pounding on the cellar door as it gave way. A shaft of light penetrated the darkness and made us wince. We heard boots on the cellar stairs, and we were hauled out of our hiding place. That evening, when we finally came home, we found my grandmother alive, but with a bloodied face and missing several teeth. Under the Germans, life for the Jewish population became increasingly more unpredictable. During an especially violent few weeks in August 1942, 50,000 Jews were murdered in Lvov, and my parents became convinced that none of us would survive. And this was especially true of children who were useless as laborers. And as you know, it has been estimated that 1.5 million Jewish children were murdered during the Shoah. And it has been calculated that the mortality rate for Jewish children in Poland during the German occupation was greater than 99.5%. Or to put it another way, the chance of my survival was less than 1/2 of 1%. My parents' conviction that none of us would survive is supported by the statistics. The pre-war population of Lvov, Jewish population, was approximately 115,000, and this increased to 140,000 with the influx of refugees such as we. But by the time we were liberated in 1944 by the Russians, only 823 Jews remained alive in Lviv, and almost no children. On a personal level, when I wrote a book about my family, I included a page listing of my family of all those who did not survive, and it took several columns of the page. The reason I can speak to you today is thanks to my parents' courage, born out of desperation, to send me into a foreign environment, and thanks to Archbishop Andrei Sheptytsky of the Ukrainian Uniate of Greek Catholic Church and his brother Clement, who was head of the monasteries, as well as the Studite brothers, who were among the very few who had the moral courage to answer the biblical question, am I my brother's keeper, in the affirmative. My father met with Archbishop Sheptytsky as a representative of the Jewish community in August of 1942 to ask him to hide 600 Torah scrolls collected from the city synagogue. At some point during the discussion, one of them raised the question of hiding my brother and me. In the fall of 1942, my father took me to the cathedral then known in Ukrainian as Svyatый Yur and in English as St. George. I was then barely 7 years of age. Suddenly and without preparation, I found myself in a strange world, separated from the world I knew and the people who loved me. I was given a new name, Lev Kochaminsky, a new Ukrainian identity, and warned repeatedly never to mention my Jewish background, never to mention anything about my family, or to bathe or go to the bathroom in front of anyone, lest they see my circumcision. I was taught to speak Ukrainian, to read Church Slavonic, the prayers that a 7-year-old was expected to know, how to cross myself in the proper Ukrainian manner, and how to take communion properly. When I was considered ready around Christmas 1942, I was taken to an orphanage in a monastery in the village of Univ, in the foothills of the Carpathian Mountains, where I spent the next 2 years. The monastery was self-sufficient farm, so all of us had agricultural chores in the fields and barns. I attended a village Ukrainian school several times a week. Shortly before the end of the war, we were given clean clothes and asked to pose for this photograph, and I'm so sorry that you can't see the photograph, which I have a picture of, in front of our church. I'm sorry? Oh, then I think I need to go and into Zoom again, because I don't have the, wait a minute, I don't have the Zoom in front of me here. Okay, so I'm going to say share, and
Microsoft.
the Microsoft is not on here. Why isn't it on here? When I know it's on here. I don't. I'm sorry. I don't know why I can't seem to find
It's all right. We can also share your presentation and photos with our attendees after tonight, if you can send them.
I wanted to tell you about this picture that that we were asked to pose in front of the church in early 44 or late 43. Among the children, and this was an orphanage in a monastery, and among all the children there were 3 of us who were Jewish. I don't know how I knew that the other 2 were Jewish, but somehow I did. And they placed us together in this picture. And finally, in the 1990s, I was able to find the other two boys. One, whose name or real name is Oded Amarant, although I knew him by his Ukrainian name, Dorko. After the war, he went to Israel and became a heating and cooling engineer. The second one was known as Daniel Chervinsky, but his real name was Adam Daniel Rotfeld. His entire family was killed, and after the war, he became an international diplomat, was director of the Swedish disarmament organization SIPRI for 10 years, and then was named by the Polish government the foreign minister of Poland. And he continues to live in Warsaw. Unknown to us, our teacher in our village school, Ukrainian village school, was hiding a mother and her little boy in the attic of our schoolhouse. This little boy's name was Roald Hoffman. He eventually became a professor of chemistry at Cornell and was a 1981 Nobel Prize winner in chemistry. We were liberated by the Soviets in July of 1944 when I was 9 years old. The Soviets began arresting the priests, and many of them eventually, unfortunately, perished in the Gulag. The Ukrainian Catholic Church was finally outlawed in 1946 and did not resurrect itself until 1992 with the independence of Ukraine. And as a result of the Russian attitude towards the Ukrainian church, I had to run away from the monastery, and I ran to Lviv. I was able to get a ride to Lviv. I was also fortunate in that only my brother and I were the only survivors, and I was 9 years old. I was fortunate to be taken in by a wonderful lady by the name of Tola Wasserman, who had lost her entire family and was willing to take me in. I now went to a Russian school, and in 1945 we were permitted to migrate to Poland, where I went to a Polish school with a Polish name and as a Roman Catholic religion. In 1946 we were permitted to migrate to England, and I spent 3.5 years in England, and that's where I learned English. And I was just short of 14 years of age in 1949 when we arrived in New York. By then, I had already answered to 3 names. My birth name, Leon Kamaides, my monastery Ukrainian name, Levko Chaminsky, and my Polish school Roman Catholic name, Leslav Kusharecki, in 5 languages, German, Polish, Ukrainian, Russian, and English. And I had already been a member of 3 faith communities, Jewish, Greek, Catholic, and Roman Catholic. A common question asked today as anti-Semitism is increasing is, can it happen again, and how do we prevent it? Marian Turski, a survivor of Auschwitz and 2 death marches, who spent his life as a historian, was a Shoah educator and editor of a historical periodical, died last year. He told us, quote, Auschwitz did not fall from the sky. It began with small forms of persecution of Jews. It happened. It means it can happen anywhere again. That is why human rights and democratic constitutions must be defended. The 11th commandment is important. Don't be indifferent. Do not be indifferent when you see historical lies. Do not be indifferent when any minority is discriminated against. Do not be indifferent when power violates social contracts. If you are indifferent, before you know it, another Auschwitz will come out of the blue for you or your descendants, unquote. One of the most common questions young people ask me is, what can we learn from the Shoah experience that might be applicable today? I point out that the Germans made many important contributions to civilization in music, philosophy, literature, and arts. Germany was a socially progressive democracy, and Hitler was freely elected. The German descent into barbarism was led by a charismatic but bigoted and hate-filled leader, supported by an enthusiastic segment of the population. Further support was provided by those who were persuaded or intimidated, but the majority broke Trotsky's 11th commandment and were simply indifferent. If a great country like Germany could sink to such depths, then we are all vulnerable. We all have the capacity to do so. Or as Trotsky said, quote, "It happened. It means it can happen anywhere again," unquote. On Shabbat Zachor, the Shabbat of remembrance, the Torah portion commands us to obliterate the memory of Amalek, who victimized the weakest and the most vulnerable. We usually think of Amalek as someone else, but we must remember that we cannot obliterate Amalek's memory if we do not make every effort to protect ourselves and our neighbors from becoming Amalek. Thank you very much, and I apologize to you that you weren't able to see the slides which would have illustrated my talk. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me, sir? Can you hear and see me?
I can hear you, but not very well. Go ahead.
Okay, well, we're going to talk really loud, so anybody who has a question, we have time for a couple questions. We also, unfortunately, have a battery that's about to die, so if we lose him, I apologize. But okay, thank you, Susie. But we do have time for a couple of questions if somebody would like to ask. And I can repeat the question if you can't hear it.
Dr. Kamaides, this is Brad Jubileer, a pediatrician from Middletown. You may remember me, but there's a few pediatricians here in our in the shul, and we would love to hear a little bit about your story when you finally made it to the United States and how you became such a great honored physician at University of Connecticut School of Medicine.
I can't quite hear what you're saying, so I don't know whether they're asking you a question
Come
or
over to the
what.
laptop and say it directly to him.
They want to hear
Not on
a
the
little bit
microphone, but on
about
the
your
laptop.
story about how you became such a great physician after you came to the U.S.
My daughter just told me what you had asked me about my medical career. Well, I went to, when I came to the United States, I felt that I knew a lot about Christianity and I knew nothing about Judaism. So I decided to go to Yeshiva University, where I was told would be the best place for me to learn about Judaism. And I spent 6 years there studying Hebrew and Talmud and Hebrew literature and history, etc. And also at the same time, I finished high school and then went to college and finished college. During college, I liked sciences very much. And also I was in the company very often of many people who were refugees. And I noticed that people who were physicians could always carry their profession with them, whereas people who were lawyers in Poland ended up as doormen in New York. So I decided that medicine was a reasonable choice in case I had to get up and move again. And having moved so many times, I wasn't at all sure that this was going to be permanent. And so I applied to medical school and they decided to accept me. And so I was in the very first class at Albert Einstein College of Medicine. I decided to go into pediatrics and was accepted at the University of Rochester, where I trained in pediatrics, and then also at Boston Children's Hospital. And then I met a wonderful pediatric cardiologist who really inspired me and decided to specialize in pediatric cardiology. And I came to Hartford in January of 1967 I was brought here by Hartford Hospital to start a program in pediatric cardiology, which is what I did, and was then involved in building the Children's Hospital, and the University of Connecticut, of course, opened its medical school, so I taught there from its very first class till my retirement. So that tells you a little bit about my medical background.
Thank you. The next question we have is quite a different type of question, and it's about God. The question is, how can you reconcile this idea of a loving or merciful God with what you have endured, if you're willing to speak personally about that topic?
I don't pretend to understand God. I hope he understands me better than I understand him. But I honestly don't pretend to understand God. And I'm not sure that God is necessarily responsible for what happens to us. As far as I'm concerned, what happened to me and my family and my co-religionists was not the action of God. It was the action of other human beings. And that to me is the problem. So I don't have really any, maybe I don't have enough faith in order to answer that question, but I have no tiness to God. I have no complaints against God.
Thank you for your response, sir. Does anybody else have a question? We can do one more. We could do one more. No? No one? Thank you, Susie.
Okay. Thank you for sharing this with us. I want to tell you that I also share the story of my family, and I do it in schools, and I try to do it in mainly non-Jewish schools. And it's been very, very successful. The children really are interested, and they ask questions, interesting questions. I want to hear from you. What would you emphasize on when you go to schools like this for children that haven't heard about the Holocaust and that you want them to learn and maybe prevent it from happening?
What would you emphasize if you went to schools to speak to children? What lessons would you emphasize to them?
You know, I speak at many, many schools. I try not to speak to elementary school children, but I speak to a lot of high school, and I speak to quite a few colleges also. I basically tell them what occurred to me. I give them a session that's very similar to one I'm give you, but with slides. And I don't try to analyze it very much. And I find that youngsters take, you know, when you listen to a story or you listen to an experience that someone else has, two people listening to the same experience will very often take out different lessons. Not because the person gives a different lesson, but because the listener needs a certain lesson. One of the things that fascinates me is that I speak to quite a few classes which are all minorities, blacks, Latinos, and so on in inner cities. And I often wonder as I go there, my gosh, why do they want this? What are they going to get out of it? And what's fascinating to me is I can't tell you how many letters of thanks I have gotten from these people. And what they emphasize to me is that you have inspired me, that if with your experience in life, you could come out and make something of yourself and do something and contribute to society, then I thought I had a lot of problems. And now I realize that mine paled compared to yours. And if you can do it, I'm convinced that I can do it. Now, a letter like that is the last thing in the world that I went to that school to teach. And yet, that's what that person needed, and that's what they got out of it. So I think people are going to get out of it whatever it is that they need. I don't know. My personal experience does not make me an expert on suffering, does not make me an expert on how to prevent something like this from happening. I can talk about, as I did today, about the 11th commandment and about not being indifferent and not be discriminating, and all of those are important. But I'm not convinced that that's what's going to prevent another catastrophe like this from happening. There are other political issues which are probably more important and which I probably don't understand. So I don't go into a classroom with a message that I want to teach them. I can only go into the classroom to present my own experiences. And I can tell them how I felt, and I can tell them what my experiences were, but I can't interpret them for them because I'm not smart enough for them.
What did you think, Helena?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your thoughts, and I find it important that they hear what happened. I mainly go to middle schools, not the younger kids, and high schools. And I find they're very, very receptive, and I think it's positive that they hear the story and see what happened. And they seem to show empathy, and I think that's important.
I agree.
Thank you, Helena. Friends, I hope you'll join me in thanking one more time Dr. Kamides. Thank you. And I hope you can tell you were very popular here. And, and we're glad to know you on the screen, and we hope to know you in person one day too. And please feel free to send to Shelley your materials so that we can share your photographs and your presentation with all of the attendees. I know that many of us would like to see that. Thank you again for your time, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Friends, we now move into the concluding prayers of our evening together. As we conclude this hour of memory, we enter into a service of Yizkor. We pray that God may remember our dear ones who have passed into the world beyond worlds, those who have died, who have become the martyrs of our Jewish family. And we turn to page 14 for El Malei Rachamim. Please rise.
El Malei Rachamim, שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה. במעלות קדושים טהורים, כזוהר הקיע מזהירים. את נשמות 6 מיליון אחינו וידיוחתנו, שנחלוב על קידוש השם Ba'al harachamim yastirim. Beseiter kenefav leolamim. Veitzror bitzror hachayim et nishmatam. Adonai hu nachalatam. V'yanuchu v'shalom al mishkava. V'nomar Amen.
Fully compassionate God on high, to our 6 million brothers and sisters murdered because they were Jews, grant clear and certain rest with you in the lofty heights of the sacred and pure, whose brightness shines like the very glow of heaven. Source of mercy, forever enfold them in the embrace of your wings. Secure their souls in eternity. Adonai, they are yours. They will rest in peace. Amen.
Amen. Page 15. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divrach lirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yom echon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shemei rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei almaya, yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudusha brichu, La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. The source who creates harmony on high, may God bring peace to us, comfort to all the bereaved, and an enduring sense of shalom and shlemut, of peace and wholeness in the wake of tragedy. Together we say,
Amen.
Oh, say shalom b'imromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Oh, say shalom b'imromav, uyaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. The Midrash teaches us that every prayer is sealed with a request for peace. That's what we just sang. And I would add that every Jewish moment should end in hope. Because even in the depths of our despair, our tradition teaches that there is always hope. There was a sign above a little shtibel of the Chabad Rebbe in the Warsaw Ghetto. Jews don't despair. Jews don't despair. Jews hope, and Jews get to work. Page 16.
Yehudi, ירושלים, להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון
With special appreciation to all who made this evening possible, I say, Lechu l'shalom, tzeitchem l'shalom, as you came in peace, please go in peace. May we all bring greater peace into our world. Erev Tov.
Erev Tov. Yasher koach.
Can I get her a hug? Of course.
Totally forgot. I'm sorry, Shelley. Everyone, our friend Shelley reminds us that there is a small reception in the social hall for us to greet one another. So please do stay for a moment as there is a small reception. Sorry, Shelley.